Welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Rabbit Hole Podcast. I am your host, CSD Fantasy. Hello, Fantasy Faithfuls, and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Rabbit Hole Podcast. My name is CSD Fantasy, and I am only flanked by one person today, Nick Faber. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. We're missing Carlton, but I'm happy to be here representing for both of us.
Representing the undefeated Week 5 Detroit Lions. In Week 5, y'all were undefeated.
Well, no, we're not undefeated.
In Week 5, you were.
Oh, yes. Okay, right. Well, yes, absolutely we were. What a good week it was. A relaxing week. Got to enjoy and watch Red Zone instead of having to put Red Zone on my little Mac and then have my big screen for the Lions. I got to enjoy my big screen for Red Zone. So I appreciate that, Detroit and schedule makers. But I also get another week of it next week because the Lions don't play until Monday. So two Sundays in a row with the Red Zone. Like, best of the
Red Zone is fantastic.
Red Zone is fantastic.
And
yes.
Hansen is just a beast.
Yeah, I don't know. Have you ever watched Red Zone on DirecTV with Andrew Siciliano?
Just momentarily. Is he dope as well?
He's a better host than Scott Hansen. I like Scott Hansen, and I appreciate him. But if you've ever seen DirecTV's Red Zone with Andrew, he is sarcastic, dry humor, my kind of guy. Just shies away from nothing. I feel like Scott Hansen is a little bit too political for me. So, but okay. He does his job well, and I absolutely love the channel. I definitely can't complain. You could put Big Bird hosting that channel, and I still would watch it.
When I started watching a lot of football back from Europe, we had Red Zone, like that was our only alternative, pretty much, to compare to a Swedish studio of 3-4 guys who knew nothing about football. And then so it's like, what do you think about that blocking scheme? Well, I don't know. And then it's super awkward. You had one guy who's played in the NFL, terrible on TV. He's good now, but like this was 7 years ago or something, 8 years ago. I can't remember fully, but terrible screen presses and everything. So Scott Hansen was like what brought me into the fantasy realm. But I do love Andrew Siciliano. I've listened to a couple of podcasts with him. He is fantastic.
He is, and to bring up, for me, when I first got introduced to Red Zone, it was Andrew Siciliano, and it was through DirecTV, and he was the guy who got me into Red Zone and was like, instead of me having to flip through every single game via Sunday Ticket and not really having, not knowing having to look at my phone or the computer to figure out who was in the Red Zone, flip to that game, remember what channel it was. All of a sudden, they introduced this channel. It was called Red Zone. And it was Siciliano who was leading it, and my heart is always for him because of that. So I might be a little harsh on Scott to start this show, but I do appreciate him as just, your first love is always the biggest, right?
Exactly, especially when it comes to sports.
Right.
You can't get away from that. I do like the Atlanta United here in soccer, but it's not really the same as my European teams. But we have a fantastic episode here for you today, but feel free to interrupt at any point in the show. That in the live chat, we are here to serve.
Please.
Before we get into today's show, I would like to remind you to hit that like button. Please share it on social media to help us get the word out there. Subscribe if you haven't done so. Check out the Patreon page for exclusive content and personal fantasy projections. And lastly, head over to csdfantasy.com for the waiver wire article, and tomorrow for the score prediction and risk analysis for week 6. And don't forget to check out the fantasy snapshot videos of Cooper Kupp and for DK Metcalf coming out on Friday and Saturday right here on the YouTube channel. But now we go into the news. The news rundown. Enter week 6, I guess, but we have James Conner and Juju Smith without a quarterback. What is happening for their fantasy production? And I'm gonna throw it to you, Nick, because Carlton is not here.
I know, poor Carlton. Where's our third musketeer? Poor guy. Yeah, what is going on with Juju and James Conner? To be all honest, I'm sitting Juju this week. I don't know what is going to happen. I don't think that. Who is the quarterback again? Kevin Hodges? Is that his name?
Duck Hodges?
Is that it? Okay.
No, he has like a nickname Duck or something like that.
Oh my gosh. See, I don't know anything about this guy because the
No.
fact of the matter is he's not relevant. He's not going to make the Pittsburgh Steelers relevant. They have a good enough defense. They have good coaching, and I think it's going to be the James Conner show. They're going to try to win with time of possession. I don't think you need to sit James Conner due to the quarterback injuries, though. Juju is another story. Like, I don't know if I can buy into starting Juju moving forward until they get a relevant quarterback back. I just have to at least give it a week. I can't start him this week right now. I can't.
Without Mason Rudolph, you cannot start Juju Smith-Schuster unless Hodges is Tom Brady reincarnated.
Yeah, right. Like that's and how.
Yeah,
when,
no,
how
much
does that happen? You know what I mean?
That's not going to happen. But
Right,
I feel like you have to sit Juju Smith-Schuster, and then Wesley in the chat brings up a good point with 4 comments. Gurley hurt, McCaffrey hurt, David Johnson hurt. Updates pick up a backup. You kind of have to start James Conner with all these running back injuries because what if McCaffrey is more hurt than they know and DJ is not playing? I'm not that big a fan of Chase Edmonds. Gurley, we know who's taking over for Gurley, but you kind of have to start James Conner even if you don't want to.
Well, yeah, I mean that's exactly right. You spent a high enough draft pick on him, and you've weathered the storm. Hopefully, this far. If you're 0-5, 1-4, I won't blame you for not starting James Conner just for the simple fact that you need a spark on your team. But if you're relevant in your fantasy league still, James Conner is just the guy that you're going to live and die with. You paid the price. You spent the money on him. We did do research. You probably listened to me because I was all on James Conner. So if you listen to me and now you're sitting with James Conner, I apologize. But I'm in the same boat, and I'm just going to weather the storm. Hopefully it works out for me. But again, like I said, I'm sitting Juju. Real quick though, something that you brushed right over. You're sitting. You're not interested in Chase Edmonds at all, huh?
If David Johnson can't be fantastic running behind that line, why would Chase Edmonds be that fantastic?
Yeah, I mean, I do understand, and I've been saying it forever, is that David Johnson just isn't even like represented in this air raid offense. But the fact of the matter is, he's still like a top 10 fantasy PPR running back.
Definitely.
Even though it looks like he's not being fantastic and giving you these 55-point games, like it seems that everyone's got one of this year. Even everyone's got a 50-point game, it seems.
Not Ezekiel Elliott.
Not Zeke, unfortunately, but that's still to come. Though David Johnson hasn't given you that performance yet, there's no reason that he's still a running back 1. He's a running back 1 right now in PPR fantasy. So if he doesn't go, Chase Edmonds needs to be a guy that you're thinking of right now. Same with Christian McCaffrey. Who's the backup? Bonifon?
Yeah.
How do you say Bonifon?
I don't know how to pronounce it, but that's the guy.
I don't know how to pronounce it either. But that's a guy. If Christian McCaffrey can't go, we see what Carolina likes to do, and that is just push the ball with whatever running back is next up. I don't think Jordan Scarlett's going to take too much out of Bonifon's volume if McCaffrey can't go. And I'm not saying McCaffrey. I don't know what
I think he's going to play.
Probably will. He probably will. But we're in London, 9:30 game. I don't know. If Christian can't go, make sure you get Bonifon on your team. Yeah. I like saying that name. I hope he plays this week just so I can talk a lot more about Bonifon.
It is a fantastic name.
Fantastic.
Before we hit the next news item, Mellow Fan and Wesley, first off, both of y'all, welcome to stream. So happy to have you both on board joining us here tonight. Mellow Fan wants to know about backup tight ends for week 6. The tight ends is slim pickings there right now. Chris Herndon just got announced that he's not playing week 6. So you can't even go with him.
Right.
TJ Hawkinson is back. I'm looking to start him in at least one league. So
we're talking like backup tight ends. We're dropping someone because we need a tight end to come in and do his thing. I don't know. I mean, is Dawson Knox still available?
Yeah.
Your backup tight end is such a hit or miss. Who's Arizona play this week? I don't have it right in front of me.
It is. I'll get it up.
Yeah, I don't have it right in front of me, and I need to, but I don't. Whoever Arizona's playing, look at their freaking tight end. Obviously, if you want to be looking at like James
Oh, Austin
O'Shaughnessy.
Hooper, but he's not. He's not going
Okay,
to
so
be
he's not
available.
available. James O'Shaughnessy tore his ACL. Backing him up, I believe, is Jeff Swain. Jeff Swain on Jacksonville. It looks like Gardner Minshew likes to hit his tight ends. James O'Shaughnessy had two touchdowns in the past 3 weeks. 54 yards last week. I believe he's eclipsed like 30 yards in each of the past 3 weeks. It just seems like Gardner Minshew, if he's not hitting DJ Shark, though I know Dede Westbrook has a great matchup this week. Seems like Jeff Swain might be like someone if you're trying to just like pick something out of nowhere, McDonald might have a good matchup for us to go in. You might want to like look at him.
But then he doesn't have a quarterback.
He doesn't have a quarterback, but that might help him, right? Like what's a better safety net than James Conner and Vance McDonald?
True.
The big thing for me for Vance is that Nick Vannett is there, and I think he kind of steals a little bit away from him.
Yeah, but like if Gerald Everett is available in your league, I wouldn't mind going with him.
Yeah, I mean, 136 yards last week is good. I've always been the biggest Higbee fan. I've always wanted Higbee, but it seems like Everett is who's progressing forward in receptions and yards. He might be the guy that you want. I like that too. He played in San Francisco. It's not the easiest defense to get points against. You know what I mean?
You know, another guy, and this is because the tight end position has become what it's become this year.
Oh, it's a crapshoot, man. It's a freaking crapshoot. Outside of the top three, it's you can pick your poison.
If you need a couple of stable points, I'm gonna say a guy that can give you 3 this week, no more, no less. Jason Witten.
Oh, that's my boy.
Like get 3-4 points and be happy with it. Because
100%.
It's to the point with tight ends that you're either going to get 0, 1, or 7. Pretty much. And
right. You're basically banking on a touchdown, right? If you can catch a touchdown from a tight end, then you had a good day. You've done what you needed to do. And Jason Witten kind of gives you the best opportunity for that, in my opinion. Unfortunately, the offense hasn't been looking stellar over the last 2 games, but Jason Witten is a guy you need to be. I don't mind streaming Jason Witten at all. Who's he got this week? Dallas plays the Jets. Oh, well, actually, that's not the best matchup, but I don't mind Jason Witten regardless, just because he at least gives you the red zone opportunities.
Yeah. Let's touch on some more news item with Jake Gruden gone. I just wanted to touch on this real quick. I still don't see any fantasy relevancy going on in Washington at all. With a new coach, interim coach, the team is just in shambles. I can't see myself starting any Redskins player right now.
No.
I mean, only one might be Dustin Hopkins, but when the offense is that terrible, you can't even start their kicker against Miami.
No. You definitely the only guy so you're all off the Terry McLaurin train.
Yeah.
Terry McLaurin
I'm not completely off.
He might be a quarterback proof wide receiver. Like, he is explosive. He is elite in his route running, and he's fast as could be.
But eventually, teams are going to take him away because that's the only weapon.
Right. So if that is the case, do you then believe in Chris Thompson? Because if you're going to take away Terry McLaurin, is Chris Thompson not the next guy up? Like, he's like the best, at least the best Redskin to have on your team. But there's a reason why no Redskin had a wide receiver had an ADP going into the year. And it was because people were sleeping on McLaurin, and he deserves it, and I understand that. But that's just because the team isn't good. The quarterback situation is awful. We have an interim head coach. We don't know what's going on. We don't even know who's starting at quarterback. For the worst thing that could happen is that Colt McCoy starts again. And if Colt McCoy is starting, you aren't starting anything with Washington. If Dwayne Haskins is starting, I think there's an opportunity still for McLaurin to be a top 24 wide receiver. And if you have a flex position, if you have a wide receiver who's a top 24, that's a good start.
And like Chris Thompson, I have him for 1 week start only against the Dolphins, week 6.
Yeah. So what do you think is going to happen this week with this game? Do you think this is going to be a high-scoring game or a low-scoring game?
I think it's going to be a terrible game.
That's what I think. I think it's gonna be low scoring. I think this.
Yeah,
I'm avoiding anyone in this game. Like I understand it's the two worst defenses, but it's also the two worst
yeah.
offenses. And when it's the two worst offenses, defenses seem to prevail. It's not always like that, but I feel like the odds are in the defense's favor. So I'm projecting like this game. I'm taking the under any kind of bets that I'm doing. I think this game's gonna be more like what we saw, like a 16-10 game, and that's
Bills Titans.
Exactly, 14-7 Bills Titans. Exactly like that. I was thinking like Texans Panthers 16-10 game. That's why I brought up that score up. But that's what we're gonna see is more of a poopy offensive game with good defense and poor special teams. You're gonna get a most 21 points out of this game. So I'm just not. I mean, and maybe in DFS if you can find someone who's real cheap, you take a flyer on them. But in like fantasy football season long, I'm not starting anyone from this league.
Another, the last news item I wanted to touch on was Stephon Diggs, and to me, like I don't want to talk too much about Stephon Diggs, but to me, the like shit show that started going on increased the value for Adam Thielen, and as soon as everything started happening with Thielen sort of coming for Cousins apologizing on his own podcast. Stephon Diggs wanted to get out of the building. I just put Thielen in the lineup instantly. I'm like, okay, they apparently have drama. Thielen wants the ball. He's the best receiver, in my opinion. They're going to give him the ball. It was sort of like the Devontae Adams situation back a few weeks ago where, like, oh, should we give the best player on our team the ball? Sure, Dalvin Cook is probably the best player on Minnesota Vikings right now, but Adam Thielen is, to me, and it's always been right behind. It's just that he's not getting the ball enough. When all this went down, I think Thielen's value just skyrocketed. Am I off on this, or what do you think? And what would be your favorite team that Stephon Diggs can go to?
The favorite. So to answer in chronological order, you're not off on it. Like it was. It's just Adam Thielen is a better wide receiver than Stephon Diggs.
Thank you.
He's more of a safety net for Kirk Cousins as well, but he's got better hands. It just in fantasy purposes, like Stephon Diggs is your take the ceiling off kind of guy. He's your guy who's going to make these big plays. He's going to go a little bit farther down the field in comparison to Adam Thielen, where Thielen is more of, I don't want to say your Wes Welker, but he's just more of your possession wide receiver. So
Yeah.
for fantasy purposes, a guy with phenomenal hands and set up as a possession receiver with a quarterback who struggles to throw it deep, but can very, very successfully pass it short. And his accuracy short is underrated in my opinion. As bad as Kirk can be.
He's very accurate on short throws. He's just terrible going deep. When it's
exactly
a little difficult, when stuff gets a little difficult for Kirk Cousins, he just crumbles. And it's like a deep throw. He's like, oh my gosh, I have to make this throw. And it's on primetime TV.
Yeah. I mean, you're 100% correct. And that's why Thielen survives more. Also believe that Thielen is just a better, when it comes to NFL wide receiver, Thielen is what you need more. You obviously need playmakers like Stephon Diggs on your NFL team to make the possession receivers successful. They wouldn't be anything without people to spread the safeties and spread the linebackers. But to get to the second point of it, I can't. I don't know what team is going to be beneficial to have Stephon Diggs for the simple fact that I don't think Stephon Diggs is going to be traded. Every team would benefit from having Stephon Diggs. Yeah. Every single team in the NFL
you have to pick
is going to be better.
Your dream situation for him to produce fantasy points. That's the only how do you say it? Like the only parameter.
Okay, so I'd want him at wide receiver 2 for the Packers. I think him and Aaron Rodgers would be very successful. He's the guy with sure hands and deep threat that they're missing. MVS is your deep threat, but he has no sure hands. He drops everything. Geronimo Allison is not a deep threat. He can catch a lot of balls, but he can't run deep. Devontae Adams is the only wide receiver there that can actually do anything. You throw Stephon Diggs into that mix, it's going to be it's just dirty. Like that's blasphemy for the NFL. I can't even talk right now. But
I was thinking giving the 49ers a deep threat.
Yeah, I don't really buy into Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't buy into the 49ers. I know they're 4-0. I predicted them to get to the playoffs. I still think they'll make the playoffs at 9-7. But I don't think they're a great fantasy team. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is a great quarterback. I think they played some weak opponents to
Oh,
start the
definitely.
season, and I can't buy into it. So I think it'll be better. I think like if you're trying to tell me like he's going to be better in San Francisco than he would in Minnesota, I agree 100%. But I
Yeah.
can't buy into it as the love of my life,
Fantasy
placement
receiver.
for him. Right, right.
Let's get to some questions before we move on to the next segment. We have Wesley saying, "I'm starting McLaurin. He has a connection with Keenum. Yes, but is Keenum starting? And that's what's a little bit uncomfortable." Melofan wants to know if we trust Aaron Rodgers this week. Let me bring up my projections for Aaron Rodgers. I have him for 16 points right now for
That's a
week
fair
6.
prediction. Let's not sleep on Detroit's defense, boys. Right?
Yeah, and this is a 16 projection with 56% risk of not being reached.
Yeah.
A quarterback usually should have risk below 40% with a projection above 16. This is the lowest I think I've seen Rodgers, with a floor of 9.6 points and a ceiling of 20.6. There's no upside left. It's still Aaron Rodgers, but he doesn't do what he used to do when it comes to fantasy production, and
No.
I cannot trust him. I know you spent a high draft pick on him, but to be fair, Gardner Minshew is out producing Aaron Rodgers in fantasy, and then this name of the game is fantasy points, is not winning football games.
Yeah. I mean,
Which
you spent such a high draft pick on Rodgers, right? And for
hopefully
week
you
after
did not
week,
actually.
well, I mean, someone did.
Someone did.
Someone did. Not you specifically, and not this gentleman who asked the question, but it's everyone out there. They're in a league that someone spent a high draft pick on Aaron Rodgers, and after the first 3 weeks, it was well, his matchups will get better. He played Chicago, played Minnesota, played the Broncos. It's gonna get better. It's not, and the Lions held Patrick Mahomes to 0 touchdowns. Hell, Patrick Mahomes lost on Sunday night to the Colts, but still threw a touchdown. Patrick Mahomes threw 0 touchdowns against the Lions. Their secondary didn't even have Darius Slay playing. I think that the Lions secondary is extremely underrated right now.
I think they need some attention. Like, they held the freaking Chiefs, and the Chiefs, say what you want, the Chiefs is still the best offense in the league.
Yeah,
I don't care
absolutely.
what anybody like. Oh, they haven't looked that great. Detroit held them in check.
Yep. And the big thing though is that Detroit can't hold rushing in
Yeah.
check, and we haven't been able to since 1935. So Aaron Jones is about to have a day. Aaron Rodgers is not about to have a huge day. The fact of the question here is, are we trusting Aaron Rodgers? So my question for you is who else is out there that we are going to trust over Aaron Rodgers? Are we trusting Andy Dalton against Baltimore on the road over Aaron Rodgers?
No.
Probably not, right? No.
No.
Jacoby Brissett is on a bye, so we're definitely not trusting
No.
him.
Teddy
Gardner
Bridgewater.
Minshew, like Teddy Bridgewater. Here we go. So Jacksonville, New Orleans. Gardner Minshew, Teddy Bridgewater playing each other.
Yeah.
Jacksonville's defense might be without Jalen. They've looked not as elite as we want them to be. And New Orleans' defense has looked good,
Do you prefer
but not
Stafford?
great.
Stafford over Rodgers? I have
Yeah.
to say Stafford.
Oh, give me Stafford for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not even a fan, but I've been hyped. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, but I've been hyping him up on waivers because he's barely owned, and he's like he
In
has
my
a
leagues,
fantastic
he's owned in
schedule.
every one of my leagues.
Oh yeah, no, but I think he's a good bye week quarterback and potentially more moving forward. But over Aaron Rodgers right now, like you have to go like Kyler Murray, Carson Wentz, James Winston, Minshew, Goff.
Yeah, golf plays. Golf plays who? San Francisco. Yeah, man.
That one is tight. I'll probably go Aaron Rodgers over Goff in that one. But as soon as they fall behind, they drop the run game. I'm not saying Goff is a better quarterback or that I trust him more, but I trust that their play calling is going to lead to 56 pass attempts. Which I don't care if he throws 4 picks because he'll have 500 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Well, if anything's right, Detroit's going to win this game handedly, correct? 45-0 is what I presume. Is
20,
that Super Bowl?
21-14.
21-14.
24-21 to Detroit.
Not 45-0. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll take that. I'll take that.
On a kick. Matt Prater, the god.
Oh, Matt Prater, man. That chubby motherfucker. He's great. I love him.
Same here. It's my
Aaron
favorite
Rodgers.
Lions player.
Matt Prater is your favorite Lions player?
Yeah,
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
He was
You know
one
who
of
the
my
Lions?
first, he was one of my first like fantasy guys that I'm like, you have to pick up Matt Prater. He's the best kicker in the league right now. This was 2016.
Back when kickers were a thing, you're right.
He dominated. He won me like a league by himself, not by himself, but he was crazy. We have some more. We have some more questions, so let's not go down the Matt Prater rabbit hole.
Keep bringing the questions in. I love them. I love them.
We have Luis joining the show. So nice to see you, Luis. I saw some more names pop up. We got Grant. Welcome as always. Samuel Wilson. I forgot your question. My bad. Zeke, John Brown, or Woods for Freeman, Hopkins, and Hernan. Oh, so it's a trade. So it's.
I need a pen and a piece of paper. Hold on.
Ezekiel
All right.
Elliott. I'm gonna say that it's Smokey Brown and Robert Woods for Devontae Freeman and Nuke Hopkins and Chris Herndon.
I want this Zeke.
I want the
Whatever,
side.
whoever's in Zeke's side. This question is this trade, like, counter offer. If you're being asked this trade, counter offer and tell the person to screw off. But if you're offering the trade, I want to know why you're offering it. Like, why are you trying to trade away Zeke for Nuke? Are you a big fan of Nuke? Do you think it's a big buy low? Like, you know, I love to know.
It is a buy low though, but isn't Zeke a buy low as well right now?
I absolutely think so, and I think Zeke's the bigger buy low.
Yeah,
like,
he hasn't even got started yet.
Right.
And
well,
Zeke is going to be the rushing leader when the season comes to an end.
And it reminds me specifically of when Le'Veon Bell 2 years ago held out damn near all, or it was all preseason, and I think he came back week 1 or week 2. And it took 3-4 weeks for him to just be in. He just wasn't successful in fantasy, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, like, what are we doing here?" I held on to him. I drafted him early, and he's coming out slow out of the gates, and then he blew up. He was like the number 2 running back going into the year he held out. So it just reminds me of that. Definitely want Zeke in that trade for sure. So just some confidence. Keep with Zeke. You're doing fine.
I hope Samuel said he stepped out. Oh, he says thank you. I hope he stepped out. He went to Le Store. Love that. We have Luis' question. Evening, gentlemen. Evening to you, Luis. Would starting Jared Cook at tight end in PPR be a decent option this week versus the Jaguars? It looks like the injury to Brees has granted him more receptions, ironically. Thoughts? Yes. I was a big opponent to drafting him in a Brees offense. People are really happy. I was actually against it after doing a scheme fit analysis on it, and I didn't like the fit at all with the Saints. But with Teddy Bridgewater, I'm okay with it, especially with the tight end situation being the way it is right now. There's not that much options.
I want to know who, like, so the question was, are we all right, comfortable starting Jared Cook? Yeah, I'm comfortable. Like, Jacksonville hasn't done much to allow the tight ends to do anything against them. One touchdown throughout 5 weeks, less than 250 yards through 5 weeks. That's an average of less than 50 yards a game per the tight end position, not even just in a tight end number 1. So like, again, there's other tight ends that I want to stream over Jared Cook, but if Jared Cook is like your only tight end and your option is to drop Jared Cook for someone who just stream, yeah, I trust him.
I'll start Jared Cook over like Ricky Seals-Jones.
Yeah, I definitely.
That's what people are doing now. Everybody's trying to find upside at the tight end position, so they're going crazy.
Ricky Seals-Jones is what everyone's doing these days, and
I heard
if Ricky Seals-Jones is being cool, is what it takes to be cool. I don't want to be cool anymore. My God.
I'll listen to another podcast here on YouTube, and they're Ricky Seals-Jones last week. I turned off that show pretty quickly.
They bought into the one touchdown he had again while Cleveland put up 45 points against Baltimore in an off week. Cleveland can't score more than 5 points in a game.
But
Why would you think about starting a tight end from? I'm sorry.
let's beat off some of these questions. Beat off? No.
Let's
What do you
not beat
say?
off
What
any
do you check
questions,
off?
sir. No.
English is my second language. Remember that. Let's check some of these questions off pretty quickly. James Conner as a flex. Where this is what happens.
Oh.
James Conner as a flex be a bad move? No, we touched on James Conner earlier in the show, and we like him as a flex option, especially without a quarterback.
For sure. The guys, and not only that, but Jalen Samuels is out for a month. So who? Benny Snell's going to come in and do anything? No, James Conner is going to get the volume. He's going to get at least 8 to 10 receptions in garbage time while they're getting their ass whooped by the Chargers. James Conner, man, garbage time is garbage time. It's all fantasy points. Make sure James Conner is at least a flex. I'm not telling you to start him as a running back 1 or running back 2, but if you have a flex and you're debating between I don't even know,
Nelson Aguilar,
Keyshawn Johnson, or James Conner, you're starting James freaking Conner. You know what I mean?
This next question is from Grant and will lead us perfectly. No, from Mellofan and will lead us perfectly into our next segment. So let's do this question and then head over to the next one. For flex, do I pick up the Bengals Golden Tate, or Josh Gordon, Alshon Jeffrey, or Sony Michel? That's a lot of them. So let's hit them off like we usually do. Saying Auden Tate or Golden Tate. Who do you prefer?
Auden Tate or Golden Tate? Who do I prefer for this week, correct?
I believe so, for flex.
All right, going for this week, I will never start a wide receiver against the New England Patriots. Golden Tate is the last person on my mind. I'd rather start the 5th wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns over Golden Tate this week. So give me Auden Tate.
Would you do Josh Gordon or Auden Tate?
That's fun. Josh Gordon should be playing. I know he's questionable, but I'm pretty sure he's playing. Philip Dorsett is out, I'm pretty sure. So Jacoby Myers will be stepping in. I like Jacoby Myers more than I like Josh Gordon. Shh, don't tell anyone. But Jacoby Myers is a sneaky play for Thursday.
Do you like Alshon Jeffrey this week?
Do I like Alshon Jeffrey this week? Is that what you said?
Yeah. I am not excited at all for him.
I mean, no, I'm not buying into Alshon Jeffrey. I mean, Minnesota's defense hasn't been great, but you're on the road. He hasn't looked phenomenal. Carson Wentz never makes him look phenomenal. No, I'm not buying into Alshon Jeffrey. I would rather have Josh Gordon than anyone. But I'd rather have Jacoby Myers over Josh Gordon.
Do you prefer Sony Michel over Josh Gordon?
Oh, that's the other. That was the oddball here. So we're
I prefer Sony Michel, and I don't even like Sony.
Yeah, I prefer Sony Michel over Josh Gordon for sure. Just for the simple fact that the Patriots are going to be up 24-0 in halfway through the second quarter. Sony Michel had 16 carries for 91 yards against, I believe, 70% of 8+ defenders in the box. Don't let what we saw in the early weeks fool you. I preached his name early in the season or in the off season, and I still feel confident in him. If you've held on to him this long and you still have him, be confident start moving forward, especially against Giants who they're not going to be able to contend, and it's just going to be a running. It's going to be time of possession the whole second half for New England.
Let's head over to a segment that we call Nick's Picks. We don't have an intro for it, but before we do that...
How do we not have an intro for this yet?
Because y'all haven't sent me audio files of you singing Nick's Picks.
Nick's Picks! Alright, you're right. I'm not going to send it over, so...
But now I got you to sing it so I can sample that. But before we get into Nick's Picks, let's hear from our sponsors at Prize Picks. So, tired of losing on DFS salary cap sites? With our friends at Prize Picks, you can turn that fantasy sports knowledge or our fantasy sports knowledge into cold hard cash. No sharks, no endless hours of research if you don't count ours. It's just you against the projections. Just choose over or under correctly on a player's fantasy point projection to win. Use promo code CSD. New members who sign up and make their first deposit gets free 2-pick entry to win $25 and 25% first deposit instant match up to $4,000. Prize Picks really is daily fantasy simplified. And speaking of simplified fantasy, we have Nick's Picks.
Nick's Picks!
There we go. Thank you.
There you go.
Last week, Nick, you went 2 out of 3
All
with
right.
picking Calvin Ridley over Tyrell Williams. By default, you won that one as Tyrell Williams never showed up.
Well, I still picked it.
You still picked it. Cortland Sutton versus Chris Godwin, and you went Godwin. That one was also a great pick, but Cortland Sutton actually did pretty darn well.
Yeah, whoever that guy was, he was. It didn't really matter. Hopefully, he got the victory.
And the last one was DeMarcus Robinson versus DJ Shark.
Oh,
And this is where you struggled with a DeMarcus Robinson pick.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry. Who saw the Chiefs scoring 10 points on Sunday night at home? I didn't.
I don't know who saw that, but I did say that DJ Shark would be better than DeMarcus Robinson.
You had that was the spotlight for you last week,
wasn't it? The fantasy snapshot videos.
You won that one. All right, you won the battle, but you haven't won the war.
No. So in this one, I took some more high-end receivers to toss at you. And we got Adam Thielen or Keenan Allen.
Adam Thielen going against the piss-poor Eagles secondary. Keenan Allen, where Mike Williams is making an emergence, coming back, doing what we finally thought he was going to do against the Pittsburgh defense that has stepped up on a Sunday night. I think the Chargers step out to a huge lead against Pittsburgh early. On the back of Keenan Allen for the first half, for sure, has a great first half, and you might be thinking to yourself, damn, probably should have started Keenan. But in the second half, it's going to be relied mostly on the running backs. Whereas Minnesota and Philadelphia get into a shootout, and you're going to want to have Adam Thielen on your team and in your starting roster. So I'm starting Adam Thielen over Keenan Allen this week.
Adam Thielen over Keenan Allen. Let's make a note and keep Nick to these things. He will get slapped if he miss all 3. No, he won't. We'll see what we can make happen.
Just because you got into a slap bet last week doesn't mean you make everyone into one.
Slap everybody.
Slap everybody.
And I'm just letting everybody know that I'm still fine. 24.5 was the benchmark for Leonard Fournette on the slap bet between me and Carlton. In week 5, he scored 19.7. Not even close.
5 points away isn't even close.
That's a whole touchdown or 50 yards. I'm not even worried. Not even worried.
He was 1 touchdown away. That was... Ooh, I texted Carl. I was like, wait a minute. What do we got? Where are the points at right now? This is ridiculous because if we have a slap going on as soon as we made that bet, that would be ridiculous. But we don't. We'll see if Fournette can get it. He needs to get 24.5 points, right?
Above 24.5.
Okay.
We got Tyler Lockett versus Mike Evans. So we got the unknown Tyler Lockett, the most unappreciated wide receiver 1, versus the guy who put up a goose egg.
And if we remember last time he played Carolina, he had, I don't have it in front of me, but like 4 touchdowns for 60 yards, or I'm sorry, 4 touchdowns, my God, 4 receptions for 60 yards, no touchdowns. It was the Chris Godwin show that game. This week's in London, and London always brings like different vibes. So I'm not counting Mike Evans out, but you give me the option between Tyler Lockett, Mike Evans. Tyler Lockett goes up against a Cleveland defense that if they are still without Denzel Ward, without Greedy Williams, who do they have covering? The 49ers just ripped them apart on Monday night for a shellacking. So I can't buy in.
They're one of the worst teams defending against wide receivers right now. If you just look at the last 3 games, if you look at the entire season, they're like 16th in the league.
Yeah, but that's because
but the last 3, they're like number 2.
And that's what you need to be looking at. What are they trending towards? They're trending bad. I can't, because they're without their top 2 cornerbacks. I mean, it's understandable. I'm not sitting here thinking, wow, the Browns are god awful. I can't believe they are sending Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams out there every week. Well, no, they're not. That's why and that's what you need to be looking at when you're in fantasy football. What cornerbacks aren't playing? What defensive players are injured? You can't just be looking at the fantasy skill players. You need to be looking ahead and what defenses have nagging injuries and have missing pieces in their puzzle. So for me,
Lockett?
Give me Tyler Lockett, baby. Over Mike Evans.
Okay, I have extremely evenly projected, but Mike Evans has a floor of 0.1 points
because of his 0 point last week. So.
Yeah,
We
and a
know what
ceiling of 25.6 versus Lockett is a little bit more stable, 5.5 and 16.6.
Right.
This one is close to your
Real quick
heart.
question: does return yards count in these predictions?
No.
Okay, because
No, no,
that
no,
would
no, no.
lock
No,
it.
no.
Okay.
This one is close to your heart, and I wanted to see, because you also mentioned before the show that you can throw a rock a quarter of a mile, I believe.
Quarter mile.
Quarter
Yes, sir.
mile. There's another guy who can throw a football a quarter mile,
Matthew Stafford.
and another guy, Gardner Minshew.
Oh my God! Oh, I shaved my mustache. It's coming back,
Matthew
but
Stafford versus Gardner Minshew for Week 6.
no, you can't
Yes,
do that
I
to me.
can do that. That's why I did it.
I
This
can't.
is Lions fan feet
Pass.
to the fire. Minshew versus Stafford. Everybody's darling versus your darling.
I can't. I can't even get into it. Okay, so non-fantasy person would love to say Stafford. Stafford is going to go out there and put up a shellacking on Green Bay, win this game 45-0, 4 touchdowns spread between Kenny G, Marvin Jones, T.J. Hockenson, and Mr. Kerryon Johnson. However, for the simple fact of my record, and I have a winning record right now, and I do not want to lose that winning record. I'm still going with Matt Stafford. Make sure you start Matt Stafford over Gardner Minshew because Matt Stafford is about to blow up. We're about to see a Detroit offense put up phenomenal points, and it will be an Aaron Jones and Kerryon Johnson show. However, Matt Stafford will get the touchdowns. He'll get his 300 yards. We'll see 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a big 45-0 win for the Lions.
That
That's
was
true, too.
Nick's picks for Week 6, and we will check back in with Nick's picks next week to see how he's doing and track this
I'll be
for the
3-0.
future of the season. Wesley asked Gardner Minshew or Aaron Rodgers. I believe we answered that one with Gardner Minshew.
I like Wesley. Wesley's always showing up. Shout out Wesley.
Wesley
I
Mello
appreciate it.
fan. Shane is here too. Shane. But
Shane!
it's another name I want to toss. Luis is also one of our regulars, but this is an interesting name in the chat. Thomas Faber.
Oh, that's Pops.
Should
That's
I
Pops.
start Chris Carson versus Cleveland or
Oh,
David
Pops.
Johnson versus Atlanta? And he's playing you this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he tells you to watch your language.
Yeah, well, sorry, Pops, but
So I'm going to
to
take this question because Nick is going to give you the wrong answer so he can win.
Please, Carl, take it away.
And if
Inform
David
Pops.
Johnson is playing, you're starting him with a projection of 13.5 points with a 46% risk of not reaching that projection. He has a 9.8 floor versus Carson's 6 and 17.8 ceiling versus Carson's 18.3. So very close in ceiling, but the floor is much higher for David Johnson, so you can feel much more secure with it. The Atlanta run defense has been decent, ranking right now 24 if we account for the last 3 games and the entire season. But I'm not too worried about that. Living in Atlanta, all you can say is the Falcons are trash and people want them to tank right now. They're legit tank. They're saying tank for blank. They don't even care who they're picking. They just want the team to tank to get a high pick. I'm starting David Johnson, and I'm a huge fan of Chris Carson. So you can take my word when I'm starting David Johnson above him.
Yeah, David Johnson is going to have a good week against Atlanta for sure.
We got
Thanks, Pops.
Shane.
Appreciate it.
Shane joining the chat. Awesome to have you here. We got another question from your dad. Would Deontay Johnson be a good waiver wire ad? What do you think about Deontay Johnson?
Well, I mean, he would have been with Mason Rudolph in there. It seemed that he was like positioning him to be a pretty successful flex player for your fantasy team at least in the middle of the season. I don't know what it would be like for the home stretch, but with the injury to Mason Rudolph, which was such a gnarly injury, did we all see that?
Oof.
Oh my gosh! It was Juju damn near fainted. But with that injury, I don't know if I can buy into Deontay. I don't know who, depending on who you're giving up. Like, yeah, I'd rather have Deontay Johnson than Devontae Parker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm not releasing Miles Sanders or Marvin Jones for a guy like Deontay Johnson right now.
No, definitely not.
Right.
Shane wants to know, somebody offered him Nuke Hopkins for Mark Ingram and Chris Godwin. Would you do it? And for me, I cannot do that. right now Chris Godwin is a wide receiver 1, and Mark Ingram is still probably one of my favorite fantasy pickups of this year. Nuke Hopkins has the upside, and he's going to be amazing. But now you have 2 great players versus 1 great +1 player. I cannot make that trade. I'd rather have Ingram and Godwin right now.
Definitely. You're keeping Godwin. Like, this isn't the time to sell high on Chris Godwin. We knew this was going to happen going into the year. Chris Godwin was primed to be
not this good, though. This is insane.
No, well, speak for yourself. I predicted this, man. Chris Godwin, without Adam Humphries there, and with Bruce Arians coming in, we knew Chris Godwin was going to be a big part of this offense. The big thing for me was he going to catch 12 or more touchdowns? Because God knew he was going to catch 11 or under. But was he going to catch 12 or over?
But he's wide receiver 1.
He is phenomenal.
But and I would have, if you would have told me wide receiver 20, he was going to be a top 20 receiver, I would have said yes. Top
Maybe
10,
you're right. I didn't predict him to be wide receiver 1. All right, you got me there. But damn it, we knew he was going to be a top 10 wide receiver. That's why he was so highly sought after, and that's why you had to spend a 4th round, 3rd round pick on him on a wide receiver 2, because it was just the writing was on the wall. And it's not going anywhere. Like, the big thing to cycle this back around to the gentleman's question is, you're not trading Chris Godwin because Chris Godwin is going to stay in the top 5. He might not stay top 1, right? Carl, do you agree?
Yeah,
he probably won't be number 1 by the end of the year.
No, it's gonna. No.
Oh, but there's even a thought in your mind, and that's why.
If he just keeps half of this going, no, not half, but. I mean, the guys behind him are Amari Cooper and DJ Chark and Cooper Kupp, Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen. I mean, there is a chance right now with that offense that they just keep hammering him the ball. We know Amari Cooper is going to have fantastic games, and then games where he does nothing. That's just Amari Cooper.
Right.
DJ Chark probably going to fall off just a little bit, in my opinion. I like him, and he has a fantastic schedule.
Right.
But then you have Michael Thomas and Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen. Julio is going to pick up speed. Eventually, someone overtakes him.
Well, it's going to be Michael Thomas.
We have so many more questions that we need to get to. So
we have so many. Thank you, guys. Everyone, keep bringing your questions.
This is awesome.
Is it more Pops? Is Pops over here just berating our questions?
No, he actually retracted two of his.
He retracted 2 of his.
Samuel still thinks that Zeke is overrated, and buying Hopkins and Freeman is a buy low. Sure.
Wait a minute.
But I'm gonna say what I like to say on the show or on the live stream. You can just ask us for our opinion, but you have to make the final decision on everything and feel good about your trade and feel good about who you start. Even though I told people to start somebody like Courtland Sutton, you have to feel comfortable starting Courtland Sutton, even though I think he's going to be amazing. You might not feel that way or feel good about your game and like, oh, I like this lineup. You might not even want to watch Denver, so it's not fun for you to play him. And it's the same if you think Zeke is overrated or you just don't like the Cowboys. Like, that's something as well. I'll buy that. I never draft LaShawn McCoy, for instance. I don't like him.
Stop. I mean, all right, if you don't like the team, that's one thing. But Jesus, like, it's fantasy, right? Like, get it doesn't matter. You got to put all.
It has to be fun. Outside. It has to be fun.
But that's well, and I will always say, and I'll 1,000% double down on what you said. And it's, we are not here to choose your roster for you. We are here to give you our insight, our gut decisions as fantasy players who have been doing this for X amount of years and self-proclaimed gurus. We have no more knowledge than anyone else sitting out there. We can sit there and do as much research, but fantasy football isn't about the research. It's about just making gut predictions. Please go with your gut. Please ask us questions, and we will give you our best answer. Listen to Carl more than you listen to me. He has the numbers behind him. But we're just here to have fun. You know what I mean? Like, you're exactly right. Like, don't make the trade if you don't want to make the trade. Even if we both are like, yes, absolutely make the trade. If you don't want to make the trade, don't make it. You know?
Definitely not. And we got Wesley again with Gurley, McCaffrey, David Johnson. Oh, that's a W. Just got that. I'm so
I've
slow.
been doing it the whole time. Every
Yeah,
time I see
I'm
West, I
so
put out
slow. If
This is why I
you're
don't shut
listening
up.
to this, Nick is actually making a W for Wesley right now. I think you should be picking up handcuffs for Gurley, McCaffrey, and David Johnson, especially for McCaffrey and Gurley. If they are hurt, if McCaffrey is so hurt that he can't play, you kind of want that handcuff.
Give me what's his name? I've already forgot his
Yeah,
name. Shit. What's his name?
Fontano, no,
No, Bonnafru, right? What is it?
Bonafide
Oh,
Chicken.
damn it!
Damn
I
it.
got rid of that page in front of me, so I don't have it in front of me.
But-
Bonnaroo.
And then Gurley, and I lost his name, Malcolm Brown.
Malcolm Brown.
You
Yeah.
kind of have to, because it's so much points that you're giving up otherwise.
Right. So
Mellofan, we touched on Juju as a flex player.
yeah,
Wide
I
receiver
don't buy
2, wide
into
receiver
him.
1.
I'm
Right now,
sitting
you
him.
can't start him. You can't.
I'm sitting them, and I can't remember specifically who I'm sitting them for.
We
And if
got-
I can stall for just 5 minutes, I would tell you, but I
we
can't.
got. He follows up the question with Alshon, Juju, or Larry. Pick 2. I'm going Larry and Alshon over Juju.
Whoa, Juju's playing the Chargers, and who is Alshon playing again? Who's Philly? Minnesota.
Yeah.
I can't buy it. I'm starting Juju. Nah, I'm starting Juju over Alshon. Make it a Nick pick if you need, but I'm starting Alshon. I'm starting Juju over Alshon. I don't like Juju, but I don't like Alshon, man. I don't buy into him week in and week out, and it may burn me a few weeks, but I feel 7 of 10 weeks it's gonna be fine not starting Alshon Jeffrey in your lineup, right?
Oof. I own him in like 3 leagues, and yeah, he's always like a flex guy for me. I don't know. He's usually very easy to predict when those big games are gonna come. I don't think the Minnesota one is going to be, but
So who is your answer? You're starting Alshon and
yeah, just because of the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh.
I know, but
Like I think Juju's a better player, but
so Juju's gonna be coming out of the slot. I have to assume they're going to script some plays for him. That's the only reason why I like him. It's just that they're gonna script some plays for him. Hopefully, I don't know. That's a tough call. Start
Yeah.
Larry, flip a coin for the other 2. I don't know.
I'm gonna do a couple of quick questions, and then we're gonna do the weekly topic, as we only have 5 more minutes.
Weekly topic with 5 minutes to go.
That's how we do this show. Kenyon Drake or Carlos Hyde?
Carlos Hyde.
Carlos Hyde. And then the next question, I'm going to take this one, and I might have done it so you wouldn't get this one. Who will win the NFC North? The Green Bay Packers.
Stop.
I'm just saying that to mess with you. I actually think it's going to be a 4-way race until the end.
It'll be a 2-way race till the end for sure, but yeah, Chicago is awful. Minnesota is god awful. Neither of those teams are going to be in it after Week 10. The Lions will be there competing, but you're probably right.
That's what you say, though.
The Packers will win the division. The Lions will make the playoffs. Don't worry, everyone. We'll be 9-6-1 and we'll make the playoffs. The Vikings are going 6-10 at best, man. The Vikings aren't that good. They aren't that good. They're going to have to start relying on Kirk, and he's not good enough.
They're going to have some easier matchups coming up, though. But I do think the Packers take the NFC North.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Lions fan. I love Lions. Sorry, everyone. Pops is probably still watching. He's just blasphemy.
That was his question.
He's awful, but it's probably the Packers.
Raphael, welcome to the show, man. So happy to have you on board. And also, I can't pronounce that. TVO Vision. That was the Kenyon Drake, Carlos Hyde one. Yeah, I'll butcher your name, man. I'm sorry about that.
T.O.
But Raphael Markel, welcome to the show. Recently traded away T.Y. Hilton for Gurley. No, T.Y. Hilton and Gurley for Hopkins. Good trade or not? This one I'm more excited about.
Yeah, I'm more excited than the last trade we talked about. That's for damn sure.
I'd rather have Zeke than Gurley.
You're right.
I do like to have T.Y. on my team, but I think you traded for more upside on the wide receiver position, and hopefully in this case you have somebody to put in at running back instead of Gurley.
Yeah, I hope you have a good core running back sector.
When it's just a vacuum, I'm saying it's a good one, but if you're starting, I mean, I'm doing a fun thing with having like David Montgomery, Devin Singletary, and Rojo coming in as I expect Austin Eckler to get a smaller workload.
That's carries, right? Yeah,
And I'm
smart.
like, okay, one of these guys is probably going to be the lead back in 2 weeks, and that's going to carry me into the season. So if you're doing that, I can get behind it.
I love
Uh,
your optimism, man. I hope Devin Singletary is the lead back in Buffalo. He needs to be, but he needs to
eventually,
stay
eventually,
healthy.
one of them will. And Juno, welcome to the show, man. I see he mentions what he should do with David Montgomery, and I think hold on to him right now. And I think he's one
Yeah.
of those guys that you have to hold on to.
You're gonna hold on to him, but you're gonna hold on to him for the whole year. He's not gonna be any better than what he is right now. You might catch one game, maybe two games where he is explosive, and hopefully you're starting him that week. Probably due to a good matchup that happens, but I'm sorry, the Chicago Bears offense is not going to be successful. So holding on to him right now in comparison to trading him for someone who might have a little bit more upside, Devin, I'd rather have Devin
Devin
Singletary
Singletary,
than
yeah,
Montgomery. I'd rather
definitely.
have Singletary. I think he's got more upside. I truly do. Or at least just more potential because we saw what Montgomery is. This is what Montgomery is. There is no, well, this is just the first couple of weeks or anything like that. This is what you're going to have all year.
11
So
points.
hopefully you can catch a game or two, catch lightning in a bottle. It's harder said than done, though.
And then we have Mellow fan Jimmy. Jimmy Graham or T.J. Hawkinson for tight end, and I got Hawkinson out muscling Jimmy Graham in week 6. But we do have to get to the weekly topic a little quick.
We
And
should probably just not have weekly
yeah,
topics.
I should just cancel that whole segment actually.
We have 1 minute to get it done. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
And the weekly topic intro, we do have an intro, so it's kind of fun.
All right.
It's on the screen right now. It's the weekly topic, and as always, it's the shortest segment we have. And this weekly topic is AFC South madness. Jacksonville back in the game. Titans can get out their own way. Are the Colts for real? And Houston getting back on track. I'm going to let you talk a little bit about if Jacksonville is actually back on track while I get some numbers up for the Titans.
Yes. While the numbers come up for the worst team in the AFC North or South, let's talk about Jacksonville. Jacksonville is going to win this division. I said it right as Nick Foles was injured and Gardner stepped in. I called it before the season started. I had him beating Houston, even with Nick Foles in. Jacksonville is the most balanced team. They have the most appropriate team to win in time of possession. So when it comes to NFL and winning games in the NFL, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars over the Houston Texans just simply because the defense is better. However, when it comes to fantasy, get everything you can do with Houston. We saw Will Fuller go off. He was tackled at the 1 yard line 2 different times. He almost caught 245 yards or whatever he caught and 5 touchdowns. He was 2 yards away.
But he's going to
One
get
yard
hurt in
away
2
2
weeks.
different times. Well, that's a possibility. At that point, make sure you still have Kenny Stills on your team. But for now, make sure you have Carlos Hyde. I don't believe in dropping Duke Johnson. I think he's going to be fine once Carlos Hyde gets injured.
Yeah.
So I just get all your Houston guys. When it comes to fantasy, Houston's your team. When it comes to the NFL and winning this division, Jags, baby.
But Jacksonville, I feel the guy I want there is Gardner Minshew and DJ Shark. On Houston, it's way more options. You can go Watson, Hopkins, Fuller, Darren Fells if you need a tight end, I guess. Or what's his name? Akins?
We're stretching right now. Jordan Akins, yeah.
Yeah, but the tight end position is terrible.
Yeah.
In 12 team leagues is real difficult to find somebody right now. And you can go with Carlos Hyde as well. There's so many options on that Houston team. For the Colts, Marlon Mack is a must have right now.
Must have, but I don't know if he's a must start or anything like that.
No, but I wouldn't trade him away.
I wouldn't trade. Well, depending on what offered, but
yeah,
I probably
yeah. But
he's still one of the top running backs in the league.
I prefer to have Marlon Mack over Derrick Henry.
I disagree.
Ooh.
I don't like Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I don't. He's so fluky.
But Marlon Mack isn't a Derrick Henry can survive 16 games as a workhorse. Marlon Mack can't.
But it's such a good offensive line. It's so good.
It's a good offensive line. You're 100% correct on
Yeah.
that.
And like I'm thinking back to the real like good Cowboys offensive line when it was just imposing its will in a few
Right.
years ago. Same with
Right.
the Raiders when they're like, "Oh, we can make Jalen Richard
Yeah.
like
Though they did make
Darren
Latavius Murray a
McFadden on the
1,000-yard
Cowboys."
rusher for 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But lastly, with with the division, as we're doing a short one, I really wanted to talk about the Tennessee Titans and their fantasy production this year for one particular position, and that is the wide receiver position. There are only 5 teams in the league that have seen less production from the wide receiver spot than the Tennessee Titans. I sent you this earlier, Nick, but listen to this again. Those teams are the 49ers, Panthers, Raiders, Dolphins, and Jets. The 49ers have played one game less. The Panthers have a hurt starting quarterback and no real wide receiver threat, in my opinion.
That is the biggest surprise, though, Panthers, for sure.
Yeah, but still,
DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel have both put up respective points. I'm surprised they're this
but
low.
still not a starting quarterback.
Right, 100%. Yeah, Kyle. Yep.
And for the Raiders, you have Tyler Williams and who?
Right, exactly. Yep.
Like that's
Stephon
not even
Diggs
that's
soon,
a
right?
guy they just picked up pretty much. Yeah, Stephon. But Tyler Williams, he was he was the third option after like the tight end and Keenan Allen.
Right.
And Mike Williams, I guess, so almost a fourth option on the Chargers, and he's a wide receiver 1 on the Raiders.
Right.
And the Dolphins are an organic fish tank, just trying to tank the whole thing. And we got Mono on the last team. Mm-hmm. So those are the only teams that score less from the wide receiver position than the Tennessee Titans, who have their starting quarterback. They have all these wide receivers that they spend on, like Corey Davis. When is Corey Davis going to do anything?
In 2035, when he starts a company.
Yeah, and people are talking about AJ Brown now. Please
AJ
be
Brown just
careful.
doesn't get the targets, man. Like he's your huge like boomer bust, man. You got a bye week. You got 4 wide receivers on a bye week, and you start someone. Sure, I don't mind starting AJ Brown, but he's only getting 4 targets. You better hope he catches 3 of them. You better hope he gets in the end zone twice because he's not worthwhile.
Yeah, I could not see myself picking AJ Brown out right now and thinking he's going to be amazing on the freaking Tennessee Titans. It's just as likely as that Ryan Tannehill takes over in a few weeks as Marcus Mariota start putting up points for his wide receivers.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm right there with you. Where's Adam Humphries at? You know what I mean?
Oh, don't get me started on Adam.
They spent so much money on him, gave him a huge contract, and to just avoid him.
And it's silly how few points they score from the wide receiver position with that team.
Right.
Like the Steelers have more, and they're on their 4th string quarterback. I mean, are you kidding? Trubisky scores more for his wide receivers.
He's bad too.
Josh
Where's
Allen.
Colin Kaepernick at?
Yeah. Case Keenum scores twice as much.
Oh, he's way better.
I mean, it's silly.
Yeah, it's bad. It's just. I feel like the result of Marcus Mariota, and I said it in the offseason. I'll say it again. I'll say it for years to come. Mariota's just not a NFL caliber quarterback. Starter. He's a good backup. Needs to be a backup. He was hyped with Oregon. He had a great college career. Just not going to successfully do it in the NFL, and that hurts all your wide receivers. So when it comes to fantasy, you can't buy into anything Tennessee outside of Derrick Henry. I'm buying into him.
I know DFS for me.
He's like a top.
Yeah, no, he is. But
running back right now, right?
Let's see how long that lasts.
Well, we're over a quarter of the way.
I have my guys that I'm just strongly against their running style and how they fit my numbers, and he just goes against everything that I want.
Derrick Henry and Ezekiel Elliott both have 80 points in fantasy. Just saying.
Yeah, and that's Derrick Henry.
Him and Zeke. So
that's Derrick Henry being good. That's the good Derrick Henry versus the bad Ezekiel Elliott.
Okay, all right, I can
Yeah.
see that. You might be right on that for sure.
But we let's do check some of these questions real quick before we
Real,
sign off.
yes, sir.
Rafael says my other starting wide receivers are Julio and Cup, and my running backs are Dalvin Cook, Matt Breida, and Chris Thompson. I feel like you might be a little too light on the running back position. This is a PPR league, but you might be a little light on running backs, especially if Tevin Coleman starts taking snaps from Matt Breida.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris Thompson after week 6, I'm not extremely sold on it. I'm glad it's a PPR league, though.
Yeah.
Let's shout out to Agent who joined the stream and the show. So glad to have you on board, even though we're about to sign off. I see you asking a question in the back here, in the back down below. We got from Rafael, Emran Ingram is out and Ebron is on a bye. Is Graham a good replacement for this week? No.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather
Wait,
have
is who?
Jimmy Graham. A good
Oh, Graham.
replacement.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
I'd rather have Hawkinson.
Well,
But
yeah,
if you
but
can't
you think
get him,
available? Hawkinson's probably not available, right?
no problem. Well, he's been hurt, so and a bye
I-
week.
Well, maybe, but I doubt that he's available. Are we talking like? I wish give me the top 6 like waiver wire options outside Jimmy Graham, and we'll talk about who the best option is.
One tight end, Jason Witten.
Um,
There's like for real, go Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham is not a bad option actually. He might catch a touchdown.
I'm going Jimmy Graham. Like I don't mind Jimmy at all. Detroit hasn't been relatively easy for tight ends to score against, but 221 yards. They haven't scored a touchdown. Detroit's only one of 5 teams to not allow a tight end to score a touchdown.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think Jimmy Graham's your best opportunity. I think there's going to be better options out there. If Evan Ingram isn't playing, who's backing him up? Let me talk about that game. Playing against New England. Never mind. Actually, don't get that person. I'm just talking out loud right now. But yeah, Hawkinson. If Hawkinson isn't playing, Jesse James. I'd rather start Detroit tight end over a Green Bay tight end. I don't know. There's a lot more options than I think than Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, it says Cook and Witten.
Well, that's not great.
Give me Cook. I prefer Jason Witten.
Who's Dallas playing again?
Jets.
And who's
Jacksonville. Okay. I got him Witten, Graham, Cook.
Yeah.
Pretty easily, actually. Pretty easily in that order.
Give me Witten. Give me Witten, Graham, Cook.
Yeah. I think that's the best. And Agent, you will be closing out this show with who would you play this week? Adrian Peterson, Rex Burkhead, or Chase Edmonds?
Well, if David Johnson doesn't play, Chase Edmonds for sure. But let's just assume Johnson does play.
Yeah, I would assume so for now.
If Rex is playing, give me sexy Rexy, baby.
Same here. By quite a margin to Adrian Peterson.
By 2 points. And just because the Patriots should jump out to a big lead against the Giants, either Sony or Rex is going to run the ball a lot for them, if not both. Take the chance. Hopefully it's whoever you're starting. Hopefully it's Rex if it's you. Hopefully it's Sony if it's the other guy told to start Sony. One of them is going to do fine.
And with that, we're going to say goodbye. Thank you all so much for joining us here on the show. We will be back again next Wednesday at 9 p.m. But as always, you can check us out on demand after here on the YouTube channel. We're still trying to figure out how to get this show up on iTunes and Stitcher as well. But for now, we're going to stick with YouTube. Nick, you want to let us know more how people can find you and what you do when you're not doing this show?
Yes, please. Thank you. I appreciate it. Find me on Twitter at NickFavorNFL. That is the personal account. But I'm always doing podcasts. I do pretty much 6-7 of them a week, including this live one here. I also do the Daily Blitz podcast with Matt Williams. Find us on everything and follow at Daily Blitz Pod. And then I also do the RZR Fantasy Football podcast with my main man, John Valencia. We just talk fantasy, just literally talk fantasy Monday through Saturday, Sunday through Saturday. So every day of the week, I'm always doing fantasy. There's no shortage of my voice out there. If you appreciate what I'm saying, please listen, follow, and ask me any question. I'm always here to answer. But first and foremost, make sure you subscribe, rate, star, comment on
Hit
the
the like
Fantasy
button.
Rabbit Hole. On the Fantasy Rabbit Hole, because that's the best show that we do.
Yes, that is true. And don't forget to check out more fantasy content here on CST Fantasy's YouTube channel. We got snapshot videos of Cooper Kupp and DK Metcalf coming out this week, and the score projection article on CSTFantasy.com tomorrow. But as Nick said, please leave a like, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And signing off is CST Fantasy and Nick Faber, and I'll see you again next time.
Marcus, can we make that a thing?